right. My name is Josh Zimmerman. I work in the adjudication section. I run a small team that takes claims and collects the data for the proposed determination. So, adjudication, right? Action through a court. So, a general stream adjudication is a little bit different because the importance is that it joins all the water users, including state and federal agencies and the state engineer in this court action. So it's comprehensive. It gets everybody. It's not a piecemeal look at water user A and B on this stream and then it leaves out C and D, which are further downstream. It takes a look at everybody together, and that's why it's a general stream adjudication. It's big. On this map, you can see that the entire state of Utah either has been or is under an ongoing adjudication. If you look at the chunks of the size of these drainages, you'll see that they're large. So from a pragmatic perspective now, we do subdivisions. So we tackle smaller blocks of these so that staff can efficiently take a look at these areas. And then when we're done, we can do a larger decree in that general adjudication boundary. So why do we do a general adjudication? Anybody? It's for this guy right here. So if you do an application to appropriate, you file proof, and it goes through a cert process. If you do change application, you file proof, it goes through a cert process. But there's only one way to catch people that file a diligence claim, or to catch claims that are before 1903 for surface or before 1935 for underground, and that's through the adjudication. So that's one of the main points of the adjudication. Other strong points of the adjudication are to include the federal rights. I'm going to glance over this a little bit, but federal rights may be exempt from the small subdivision boundaries, but when we do the comprehensive boundary, they will be included. So when we adjudicate, we prevent a multiplicity of suits and bring clarity to the water rights picture. There could be degrees or previous decrees from 1879, 1890, 1895. All those decrees will be looked at through a current adjudication and then compiled, and then the new proposed determination, and if it gets decreed by the judge, would be the new decree for those. Also, we remove or reduce rights which have been wholly or partially forfeited through non-use. So if you've probably heard that water rights are use it or lose it. So if you have a well that was drilled in 1920 and in 1950, that house decided to hook up to public water and that well's been buried and not been in use and not in existence for 60 or 70 years, that water right would be subject to forfeiture. And then lastly, to obtain that final decree on all the rights that are within that respective drainage. So like from what Jared was saying, if all the water rights are known and everyone knows what their water right is, it's defined, they have their records, then those water rights are able to mesh together, and that water that's available to be used by each water user. Okay, so like I said, I run a team that composes these small books, and I'm a nuts and bolts person. So if you have questions at any point in time, or if I'm not clarifying something, feel free to ask a question and I'll get right to it. But what I'll do is go through the adjudication process from start to finish as how we're doing it right now. So like I said, we're going to start a small subdivision. Okay, so currently we're looking at about 10,000 people that we contact in a given area, and we give them a notice and a summons, and we tell them that their water rights are going to be adjudicated in the near future, and we have a public meeting. Okay. So from that public meeting, after about a month after that, we do a notice to submit claims. Okay. This is a 90-day timeline, and it's a hard deadline. If you miss your 90 days, you have to have a good reason for extensions, and you won't just be given an extension. If you request an extension before your 90 days is up, you'll be given an automatic 30-day extension. Okay. Once that 90 days is up, or if there's extensions granted, once those are up, we compile a list of unclaimed rights. So this is all the water rights that are on the division's records. It's any rights that, for whatever reason, people still haven't made of record with our office. So if someone thinks they have a diligence claim and they still don't file it after this 90 days, they would be considered an unclaimed right. Okay. From this list of unclaimed rights, people have an opportunity to file an objection. So that's one of the unique things about the adjudication is we make recommendations to a court, and then the court issues that decree. And that's, so you'll hear that the adjudication, or that the state engineering office doesn't disallow rights or do that. It does get done through the court. You always have opportunity to go through the court system to object to the state engineer's recommendations. Okay? Okay, there's also a public meeting for that list of unclaimed rights. Lots of opportunity for people to get clarification on how their water rights are being evaluated, to ask us questions face to face, and to take an individual look at each other or each water right. Once the objections are resolved to the list of unclaimed rights, it would be sent to the judge, and or a motion would be made to send to the judge to get a decree on it. Okay? So if you do meet your 90-day requirement and you file a claim, you can come into the office and I can help you. I have a small crew. Mike he has a small team that can help you, and we want to help you to file your claim if you need help. As you've learned over the last 2 days, if you're not very familiar with water rights, or even if you are, and if you have to deal with supplemental groups, if you have a unique point of version or individual things about your water right, we are there to help you get your claim on record the way you want it to be. Once you file your claim, we'll do a field investigation. So if you have a well or a point of version, we'll go out and take a picture of it, document how you're using it. Perhaps we will update the location of it to better reflect what we found in the field. And then we will publish a proposed determination. And again, from the date that proposed determination is published, you have 90 days to file an objection to that as well. There's also a public meeting for that to discuss your claims and the final summons. And then after all that has gone through, it can be decreed. There's a picture of me adjudicating. I would imagine that I am looking for a well that's attached to one of these houses, and maybe the claim doesn't match the address and the descriptions could be off by a little bit, and I can't quite find their well, but I'm trying to find it. So after we do the notice to submit claims, or after we do the notice that we're going to start adjudicating and we do the summons, we do this public meeting. It's in this room right here. This is a picture of where we are. And we do the public meeting because state law requires us to hold the public meeting in a local area to inform water users about the adjudication. While we do that public meeting, we try and have about at least a half a dozen people here, so 6 or 7 people here that can help people either while the presentation is being made or before and after. Our attendance on that has been up to near 200, which fills this room up, and we have everybody attends that meeting from people that have individual wells that don't understand what their forms are that they've received in the mail, or people that just are curious about what the Division of Water Rights is up to. All right, so filing your water user's claim. So we advertise it in the paper for 2 consecutive weeks. We mail it out to the owners of water rights, which is up to you to keep your address updated on the division's records. That's the address that we use for your water right. In addition to that, we query all the property owners that within our subdivision boundary, and we send a letter out to each property owner. Okay? We do that in an effort to know so that if you do have a claim that's not a record with our office, that you are aware that you have to make it a record within that 90 days. The water user's claim, so if you're a property owner, you get sent a blank form and you need to fill it out accordingly. As you can imagine, we get a huge volume of phone calls and people don't understand what CFS is, the way to describe the POD of the PLS system. So we have a staff that is helpful and wants to be helpful and invites people to come into our office and complete their claims. We don't do your claim for you and do it that way. You need to come into the office and we are more than happy to help you to prepare your claim. If you are a water right owner of record with our office, you get a claim that is pre-filled out with what the database version has for the information of your claim. It's important that you file that claim within 90 days. You can file it with the district court or you can file it with the state engineer's office. As I said before, if you get into a situation where you or maybe somebody you're helping to file a claim is at day 88 and they can't file a claim, as long as you do it before day 90, they can get a automatic 30-day extension granted. It's important. If you do that on day 91, you're not going to get anywhere. The Division of Water Rights or the State Engineer's Office can't grant extensions. You have to get them through the court. So when someone does file a claim with our office, our staff goes out and investigates the claim, updates where the well is, if there's a point of diversion on a stream, and then we'd map out the irrigation. We'd indicate if there was stock watering, if there's supplemental rights, we'd assess that at that time. And our file review and our field review are what's compiled to make the state engineer's recommendation to the court, which is the proposed determination. Yes, can you see that? So this is a water user's claim, and typically it is so somebody will come into our office and maybe they have an updated title, so they'll cross out someone's name and update the location of the well. Pretty standard actually for us that the majority of our claims that come in, people have an updated title, but they can still make a claim and protect that right. It does not update title to their right, but it does protect it, so at least it gets evaluated by our office to see if it's subject to forfeiture or not. Our office, once you do file the claim with our office, we do the courtesy of providing it to the court. As I've mentioned before, due to the complexity of filing claims in regards to how to locate your well or describe your well, your supplemental groups, it's a good use of our resources at the Division of Water Rights to have us help people file their claims if they want. They're more than happy to file their own claims on their behalf without help, or to hire folks to help them file their claims as well. So claims are taken on perfected water rights. So that'd be applications to appropriate that have been through someone's filed proof on them, they've been certificated, change applications that have been certificated and moved a POD to that new certificated location would be evaluated from where their new POD is. And diligence claims are considered perfected water rights. So rights filed for surface before 1902 and well claims before 1935 were all evaluated. Okay, so if you can read this, it says state engineer's recommendation. So say someone files their own claim and they mail it into our office, and we go out and we find their well, but it's about 75 feet away from where they said it was, and they claimed their entire lot size, which is a 1/4 acre of irrigation. But when we map it out, we take out their house, their shed, their garage, and their driveway, and we get down to about 1/1500 of an acre of irrigation. We do a state engineer's recommendation, and we adjust or correct and bring more clarity to where that point of diversion is and update it to that location. And then we write a memo that says you filed your claim as your point of diversion being here for a 1/4 acre of irrigation. We moved your point of diversion to here, and we mapped out 0.15 acres, and so that it's up front the difference between your claim, because our state engineer's recommendation or our proposed determination is just that, a recommendation to the court. You have your opportunity to object. So if you can prove to a judge that irrigating your concrete is a beneficial use, then maybe that would work out. But we don't map your claim that way. Any questions so far? Okay. So looking at that water user's claim, as you can imagine, a lot of people look at that and what is this, or where is this information at? So when we do a state engineer's recommendation and we mail that out to the folks that have filed the claim, we include a map with it. So they know where their red dot is, where their well is, and they know how much irrigation that we've mapped. So for example, if they claim that 1/4 acre and they're vested or they're adamant that they have a 1/4 acre of irrigation, that map would show that, hey, we've mapped out all of your lawn, all of your garden. You can see what we didn't map. And if you still feel that that's wrong, then you have that opportunity to object. This is important. So hard copies and originals are available at our office, and digital copies can be viewed online. Okay, so the list of unclaimed rights. If you don't file a claim, it'll go on to the list of unclaimed rights. Okay? That would include any water rights that are of record or aren't. So if you just don't file a claim, you're on the unclaimed rights list. Okay? After the list of unclaimed rights, we do have that public meeting. They do have the 90 days to file an objection. So this slide here, if their objection goes through and they have a valid water right, they would be moved from the list of unclaimed rights, and they would be included in the proposed determination of water rights. Once the objections, if there are any, are resolved, the court renders a judgment, and the rights in the list of unclaimed rights are abandoned, with the exception of those allowed as a result of a successful objection. It may prohibit future diligence claims from being filed. So what that's saying is, if you don't file that claim within 90 days, you can't come through and file a diligence claim after that decree comes out, if the decree is written that way. All right, so if you file a claim and we do the proposed determination, or we do the field review of it, and we find that it does exist, or even if it doesn't exist, if you file a claim, it will be included in the proposed determination. Again, there's a public meeting to discuss this. We notify you of the public meeting, and we give you a URL to the PDF version of the proposed determination. Claimants have 90 days to object to the proposed determination as well. The state engineer may choose, if you object, the state engineer may propose to litigate against the objection, negotiate a settlement, or seek a voluntary withdrawal. Once the objections are resolved, the court orders a judgment confirming the proposed determination or modifying it based on the objections filed. So here's a copy of the PD. So this is very similar to the contents of a water user's claim, or to, if you look at our database up here, you have the code for the water rights. So it's in the 15 area, so it's in Tooele. And then it's book 5 in that area. Here's your ownership information there. In this case, they have multiple owners and they've specified what interest they have. It has the flow rate and the type of right, description of the well. Okay, so this represents the official recommendation of water rights within the adjudication boundary. So this is the culmination of all of the hard work that we've done, from helping folks to take claim or evaluating folks who've done their own claim, making sure that that information gets updated into our database. And our goal is to be mistake-free. And we put a huge amount of effort and pride into, when it gets to this stage, that it is mistake-free. That being said, if there are mistakes or if there are inaccuracies, water users do have the opportunity to file the objection and resolve that. So moving towards the decree. So moving towards the decree is difficult because there's quite a few proposed determinations out there that have been published, but to actually get through all the objections and get a decree is something to be proud of once you can get that decree, I'll say it that way. It doesn't come easy, and a lot of work goes into it, and we are currently going through a process. We're trying to get through a lot more of those objections quicker so we can get a more decreed water, or a lot more decrees out there on existing proposed determinations. So in the early days, kind of like this, the big map from the first slide shows, you know, the goal was that you had your water rights, and say in 1903, or say in 1915, you said there's a general adjudication that's going on. It would make sense that you'd want to make all those rights that were before 1903 of record. So huge advantage in that system. As we move forward now, we're tackling these areas in these smaller areas, and we come up with interlocutory or partial decrees. And these are based on the small subdivision boundaries that we create. And then after we compile all the small subdivisions and those are decreed, we can get a holistic or a general adjudication in that big area. So all the large drainages of the state. So our office petitions the court for an interlocutory or partial decree. It's another way to say that, or interlocutory is kind of a unique word, so a transitional decree would be a synonym to that. And it settles all the issues within that particular book. Once the subdivisions have an interlocutory decree, the court is petitioned to issue a decree on the entire drainage, and that'd be the general adjudication. Any questions? So, what if a water right or water user chooses not to participate in a general adjudication? I do not like this question, and you're not going to like this question in about 2 hours. So check it. So read the answer to that. They risk forfeiture of any rights not claimed. Done. Okay? I want to clarify that. I don't think it's fair to you guys if you see that again. So what that means is whether you have a water right of record with our office and you don't file a claim, or whether you think you have a stream source from 1902 and you choose not to claim, you risk forfeiting it. And if you have a well, and for whatever reason, and this actually happens more than I ever thought it would. Is some people in the past have gotten advice that maybe they don't want to make their will of record with that office. And when the adjudication happens, you're on your last opportunity to file that claim and make it a record with our office. So you need to come into our office and file a claim. So again, it's important that if you make a claim, it's not, our office makes a recommendation as to whether your water right will be allowed or disallowed, and you have opportunity to go through the court process to file an objection and appeal that. But we do just make recommendations to the court. If you have an existing right of record and you're still using it, if you have a well and it's hooked up to your house and you're using it for your lawn and your garden, you don't have anything to worry about. If you have a right that's not of record and you can prove that it was in existence before 1935 and you're still using it, you haven't stopped using it for a period of more than 7 years, you could get a valid water right through the adjudication. If you have rights that are not in use or that have fallen out of use for a period of more than 7 years, our recommendation to the court would be that that water right be subject to forfeiture. So, that is all I have. If you guys have any questions, I field questions all day, and I encourage you to ask questions. If you have a question, I bet you there's at least 3 or 4 people who have the same question. So please ask questions if you have them.
So in your adjudication process, does this automatically forfeit the water if somebody doesn't put a claim on it? Or does that just subject them to the forfeiture process of somebody else claiming against it? Is it done automatically in this process?
Yeah, if you don't file a claim, it's considered that it's abandoned because you didn't choose to file a claim.
Okay, thank you.
Are there records in your office showing which properties have gone through the adjudication process? If I can't find a water right in your database, does
Yeah.
this property have it or not?
So in our database, in type of right, if it's been decreed, it'll say decreed. If it's had or for source of data, if it's had a proposed determination published on it but not decreed, it will say proposed determination. If it hasn't been adjudicated, it'll be blank or application or an NPR. So it'll be a perfected right or unperfected right. If you have questions on that, if you ever receive notice from our office, or if someone you know ever receives notice, I encourage you to just call in. Part of our job when we create these subdivisions or these smaller books is we go through and we take all the points of diversion and all the water rights that are within that area. And if it's a perfected application and it's within that boundary, we say it's included. And when we send out notice, that's the folks that are getting that notice. If you have a application to appropriate that hasn't been perfected on it yet, so say it has multiple extensions on it and hasn't been perfected, that would not be included in the adjudication process. Or in addition to that, say you have an underlying right with a change application on it, and that change application moves your water right into our area, we will not look at that change application until it's filed, there's proof filed on it and it's perfected and moved into our boundary. So the existing right and where it was, or maybe it still could be, is what would be adjudicated.
Hey Josh, could you show them where you're actively adjudicating now?
Yeah. So everything that I have done is the same thing that everyone from the public can do. To answer your question, if you look at this, type of right, adjudication decree, source of info, proposed determination, status, disallowed. So that'd be, this has been through the process. Okay? Thank you for your patience and me dragging this thing around. I promise it's worse for me than it is for you. So this is the adjudication books layer. And currently, we just started a book that is, the common name is City Creek. It's 57-9. And it's this entire City Creek drainage, so the hydrologic drainage of City Creek Canyon. And then 300 west is the western boundary, 900 south is the southern boundary, and 700 east is the eastern boundary. Okay, so that is the immigration boundary. Sorry that took me so long, but that's the fastest way to get it to so we can turn on the adjudication layers in a way that all of you guys can do the same. If you have problems with our website, and I'm sure James Reese gone through this, but if things aren't populated or you're not working, zoom in and out to different levels to make sure that they're going to draw. So here is this is a little bit of a unique book in that it's a hydrologic boundary along here from the City Creek drainage. So here's the bottom of the drainage, here's the ridge, and then when it comes down here, the way that and there's no set weighing stone. We use reasoning to try and come up with this, but it's based on the old plats, and usually the major roads are where it makes the most sense to draw in these books or to do these subdivisions. And so this one's a little bit unique, and then it's hydrologic, and that we made the choice and where to get this. If you look, you'll see this is the Rose Park book. You can kind of get an idea of how back that is. So the notice to submit claims on this has closed, and list of unclaimed rights is being compiled on that. Here's 57-6 down here, and so these shapes these polygons might not mean all that much, but here's the Jordan River is the western boundary. So the western side of the Jordan, the 55 area, has a proposed determination on it. The eastern side doesn't. When you see these book boundaries, at this point in time, what's dictating the size of our books is how many people we're notifying in the public. If we send out more than 10,000 notices, so more than 10,000 people are getting an opportunity to file a claim, our office currently can't get back to people within a reasonable amount of time. So if I'm on the phone, I might be getting 3 more phone calls while I'm on the phone, and our front desk is overloaded. So that's just kind of a unique thing. As we grow and as adjudication grows, things like that could change, but right now that's kind of how we're doing our books. Like my team is 3 people, so the fastest that we can get through a book is about, if everything goes right, it's probably right around 540 days, or 340 days, if everything goes right. So are you guys public water supplier folks, irrigation folks, individuals? Or I guess the reason I ask that is when you look at this map, you can either see that we've been or we're have goals of getting to the Salt Lake Valley pretty quickly. So if people know that you're a water right professional or that you're knowledgeable about water rights, you can probably expect to get some calls from your long lost uncle about what's going on with their water rights. And if that happens, I can't stress enough, if people come into our office, we will help them file a claim. It's their claim. They don't have to file it the way that we say it. We'll educate them on what their water right has been in the past, and they can make choices. We do the state engineer's recommendation if we modify that claim, and they'll know. But whether it's the adjudication or actually all the folks that have presented and helped you guys today, to get through all this stuff in 2 days, pretty hard. Like I listened to the supplemental groups discussion yesterday, and that's one of the reasons that we have an adjudication staff that looks at that, because it's a pretty complex issue and we want to get it right. And as you get into stuff like that, if you guys want to call in the adjudication, ask questions, or public inquiry and ask questions, please do so. We'd like to help you. All right, that does it for me. Thank you.